Aloha. I'm just going to give it a minute. See if anyone wants to join me live. I'm really excited about this transmission today that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes to iron out any tech issues, see if anyone wants to join me live. When you do come in live, I would love for you to give me a thumbs up, maybe some hearts. Let me know that you can hear me and see me okay. That would be helpful. Ba-ba-ba. And I will go ahead and pull up some of my notes. The current frame rate is too low. Please set the frame. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. I don't know what this thing is trying to say to me, but I'm hoping that it will just be fine. I am going to wait until I get someone in here before I start. So if you're tuning into the replay, feel free to fast forward until I get started on the transmission. Otherwise, just hang out with me. And we'll just hang out for a minute. Da, da, da. And if this thing keeps bugging me, I will have to jump out and jump right back in and start over again. So I'm definitely not trying to deal with all of that stuff right now. Okay. Oftentimes I go live from my phone. It's a little bit different from my computer. So I'm just going to pull us up on my phone also, just in case the comments don't come in on my computer. Thank you so much for your patience as we get this all sorted. I have some really good stuff to share with you today, so I'm really looking forward to it. Hey, it looks like I have a couple of viewers. Great. Okay. All right. So, just waiting for someone to give me a thumbs up that they can hear me fine, that the audio and visual is okay before I get into it. I'm just going to burn some sage. That's a really beautiful cleansing, protection practice. So it's perfect for boundaries because that's what boundaries are. They're your protection. Protection so the most tender parts of you can feel safe in the world. Sacred boundaries is something that I'm very passionate about. So I'm sure this transmission will come in very easily. I also have been downloading a ton that I want to cover during this masterclass with you guys. So if you see me looking down at any point, I'm either looking at my notes, burning some sage, or grabbing a crystal. So I love to start off coming into a space with me in any container, whether it's a single session, whether it's a masterclass, whether it is a longer, several month container. I love to start off by calling us both into full presence into this space. So that's what I'm going to do for the first couple of minutes. I'm going to offer you some sage. I'm offering some sage and blessings for this container, for breakthroughs and transformations, for everyone tuning in, for you to gain and receive value from this. Calling in blessings for me to be a pure channel for this transmission to come through. I'm sending out a signal of light to call in everyone that this transmission is for. Okay. Aloha, Crystal. If you could give me a thumbs up in the comments below and let me know that you can hear me and see me, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, I think that means that it's good to go. You can hear me. Beautiful. All right, so I've saged the space for us. I would love to invite you to come into this now moment with me. So we're going to sit up nice and tall together. Relax the shoulder blades down your back, soften your face. Tuck your tailbone slightly under so our spine is nice and long and straight. You can imagine that there's a little golden thread gently tugging at the top of our head. And we're going to take a few deep, full belly breaths in together. On the exhale, releasing everything that is outside of this now moment. On the inhale, drawing in all of your energy that is out, scattered in the world, and bringing it back home, anchoring it down into your body in this now moment like you are a giant magnet, powerfully breathing in and calling your energy back home to you now. A couple more deep breaths here. One last deep breath, make it count. Okay, that feels so much better. There's always a distinct energy shift when you consciously tune into the now and call your energy to you. It's powerful and it doesn't really take very much. So thank you for being here with me for this transmission. Thank you for holding space for me while I'm in the spotlight. Even though I'm pretty seasoned in this, there's always a little bit of nervousness that comes when you are getting on camera in front of who knows how many people all across the world. So I appreciate your love and support in holding a space for me to feel safe to bring this transmission through for you right now. So I want to start off by asking you what boundaries mean to you. What comes to mind when you think of boundaries? When you hear the word boundaries, if you feel inspired to put anything in the comments below, I would love to hear some feedback from you on what boundaries mean to you. So a couple of things that come to mind in my mind is immediately I see a wall, right? That's a very obvious representation of a physical boundary, right? Another thing that comes to mind is it reminds me of like mama bear instincts, when you have children around to be protective, right? So that's starting to get more into the non-physical aspect of boundaries, and that's what we're going to be going into today. So I'm not gonna, it doesn't look like I'm meant to be interacting with the comments very much right now, so I'm just going to focus on the transmission, and I will read and interact with all of the comments once this is finished. So feel free to share anything that comes up for you. If there is anything that comes out of my mouth that like really lands for you, I would love for you to repeat it and type it into the comments below so that it really stays with you and so that it can land more strongly for other people that are tuning in for this. Okay? So, cultivating sacred boundaries. Oh my gosh, this is very much so a skill and an art. And it is so deeply intertwined with communication skills. So we're going to be going into cultivating sacred boundaries and establishing and maintaining boundaries with grace so that we're not unintentionally causing harm to those around us when we are trying to protect ourselves or our loved ones. This is something that I have been working on mastering for years now. It's not something that I was raised with the understanding of. It's not something that my mother was raised with the understanding of, or her mother. And that's probably the same for 99% of the people that are tuning into this. One of the things that I am continuously saying to my community is that sacred boundaries, in the way that I'm going to be talking about it today, is an aspect of an evolved civilization. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Sacred boundaries are an aspect of an evolved civilization. Okay? This concept of having boundaries in your life is new to humanity, to most of humanity. There have always been wisdom keepers alive on the planet that have held certain sacred codes for information, for wisdom, for magic and embodiment, but for the majority of the population, we have been born and raised generation after generation after generation having zero concept of boundaries because we have basically been sleepwalking through thousands of years on the planet because we have been in this state of learning to evolve on the planet. And we have made mistakes, if you will, along the way in ancient past history that has made us have to start over from the very beginning a few times. And every time we have to start over, when the entire civilization has to go back to like basic survival, we lose our cognitive understanding of so much of who we are as sacred divine beings. And one of those things is the understanding of boundaries, okay? So boundaries were first brought in to my life, I think when I was 22, about the age of 22, right? I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. So I had just broken up. I had just left a very toxic relationship. I moved in with my mother. And I'm sure most of you can understand that the relationship dynamic between the modern day family, especially when it comes to the mother-daughter dynamic, is extremely complicated. It's extremely complicated. We're all coming from so many generations of trauma, and we are basically children raising more children. So I don't hold it against any parent for not being perfect. None of us are perfect, and we're all learning, my mother included. So my and her relationship has been very close for most of her life, and it has also come with a huge amount of just shit and trauma. Like most other mother-daughter dynamics, at least in the country that I'm from, which is America, in this incarnation anyways. So I moved back in with my mother in my early 20s, right? I will say that I moved out of living with my parents when I was like 17 because the relationship dynamic in the entire household was so toxic. Again, uh, no shame to either parent. I mean, I know everyone was doing the best they can. So it was a big deal for me to move back in with my mom, right? And I remember one very distinct moment when boundaries like smacked me in the face and I didn't even know what they were yet, but I had a very strong reaction to my boundaries being violated. This was before I even heard the word boundaries, really. No one ever told me about it. So I didn't understand what was going on. I just got very upset. And I was in my bedroom, and my mom came in, and she was, I don't even remember, it's been so long, she was saying something, and I didn't want to be bothered in that moment. And she didn't have any concept of boundaries either, or how to respect them, regardless of what age the person is that they're being asserted through. And she kind of forcefully pushed herself into my room to like force me to hear whatever it was that she wanted to say to me. And I got like, I just immediately turned into a fire. I got so angry and I physically pushed my mother out of my room and slammed the door. And I have such an enormous amount of respect for my mother. I would never lay a hand on her, ever. So the fact that I actually put my hand on her and I shoved her out of my room was a huge wake-up call to me that that environment was not serving me anymore. If I'm going to be in a space where I feel triggered to that degree and I am physically reacting towards someone, I need to get the hell out of there because that's not good for me and that's not good for the other person. So I packed up my yoga mat and I drove way out into the country and I just laid it out and I did a full ceremony session with myself to try to ground and calm down and figure out what the hell I was going to do and where I was going to go if I couldn't live with my mom. That's basically the gist of the conversation or the story that I wanted to share with you because I wanted to give you an example because this is very common in our current society with people not having understanding of boundaries and not having the practice of actually embodying them, especially in a way that's graceful and holds everyone in compassion. That was 12 years or so ago, a long time ago. Since then, I have grown tremendously. So has my mother. We are both very aware of what boundaries are and very respectful of each other now. But it has taken quite a long time and has been a very difficult journey to get to the place of embodiment that I now am in when it comes to boundaries. So, one of the things that I didn't know and that I'm actually just now getting into a really beautiful space of refinement with when it comes to boundaries is how to establish and maintain them with grace. I had a I had a friend one time tell me that she's a psychic medium, right? She said that I have amazing boundaries. And she described them in like a metaphor, like I'm working on softening the sharp edges of them, if you will. So I'm not quite like full of spikes that are kind of scary to come around and possibly hurt you if you get too close. That's how I was going through so many years of working on healing a tremendous amount of trauma and working on being gentle with myself. I had spikes for boundaries for a while. Because if you don't have evolved communication skills, you can't actually assert boundaries with grace. It requires that you can dance with your words in a compassionate way and still be getting the message across that this is the way that I am going to tolerate being treated, but with compassion. That requires practice. So I want to say that if you're working on being more graceful with your boundaries, be really nice to yourself, because it's a level of mastery to get to the place where you can be so strong in your boundaries, but deliver them with grace and compassion so that it doesn't feel like people are being shocked by an electric fence when they start butting up against your boundaries. And I do want to say that depending on the person, like if someone's actually really unconscious and wounded and dangerous, you might totally need to shock them. But for the most part, I have found that most humans have a general sense of how to interpret the signals that you're giving out that tell people what is the appropriate way to interact with you. That's what boundaries are. They're nothing more and nothing less. It doesn't have to be this big emotional thing, although sometimes it needs to be because we have karma to clear with people. But eventually you clear that shit and you get better at refining your ability to communicate your boundaries and establish them well and maintain them. Your boundaries tell people how to behave with you. If you don't have boundaries, people aren't going to know what's the appropriate way to interact with you. And the absolute easiest way to establish and maintain healthy boundaries is to do it at the very beginning, when you first meet someone. So it's a dance, right? Every single relationship in your life is a dance of energy between you and the other person or whatever, being whatever. It's a dance. That other energy, that other person, being whatever, is going to learn how to dance with you by how you show up in the beginning. So if you're very open, if you're super responsive immediately, and you don't allow any space between you and that person, you're basically just saying, hey, I'm a free-for-all. You can come at me with whatever, and I'll just be fine with whatever you bring me. Right? So when you're working to establish healthy boundaries, you know it's a dance, and you know the importance of establishing the healthy boundaries in the very beginning. So you actually have to be very conscious with how you interact with this new person. You need to give space. You need to give some time before interacting and communicating. You literally need to allow this energetic container of space to be created between you. Does that make sense? I hope you're following me. If you can establish this in the very beginning of a relationship, it's going to go so much better. It's more challenging to establish boundaries when you have had this relationship going on for a while. Like my mom, for instance. Honestly, boundaries is one of the hardest things for parents and children to get, especially parents, because right now we are in this understanding that children are lesser than instead of more evolved, when that is not the case. So we unintentionally overstep and violate the boundaries of children all of the time, because parents have not been evolved enough yet to hold space for them to be their own divine creator being, and to help them understand how to embody boundaries, which means the parent themselves needs to respect the boundary of their children. And this is very complex because you're in the process of going from one human being to two. And there's a very real amount of time where you are making sure that your child is not dying somehow because they don't know the world yet. You have to protect them. So you do have to have boundaries for them for a while. But eventually we have to learn how to teach our children about boundaries and respect their boundaries also, especially when they become teenagers. If you start this young, it goes much better. Just like if you start boundaries at the very beginning of a relationship, it's going to flow much better. So, I'm just going to take a look at my notes because I have a lot of stuff I wanted to cover with you. Okay, we covered that. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, also, so another thing that I want to point out is the fact that the veil is thinning on the planet right now. And our level of sensitivity, everyone's, no matter if you consider yourself a light worker, a way shower, a starseed, an empath, whatever, every single layer of Earth is getting upgraded right now, and that means that our level of sensitivity is going up. Everyone. Because your sensitivity is your ability to perceive and interpret information. This is why when you have high emotional intelligence, you have access to literally more information in the non-physical than people who aren't as sensitive. You can feel the energy of a person, the energy of a room, of an environment, because you're more sensitive. Sensitivity means that you have stronger and more receptors, just like antennas. And that comes with serious responsibility. Serious responsibility. This is why the theme of boundaries is highlighted across the entire planet right now. Because our level of sensitivity is rising. And the outward world is very chaotic right now. And the more our sensitivity grows, the more we absolutely must have boundaries and be continuously working at refining the way that we cultivate sacred boundaries in our lives. This is something that I work on with clients all of the time because I work with sensitives. I work with people that identify as an empath. And I see sensitives, empaths. By the way, we're all empathic. It's just how much of that you have online within yourself. That's why one of the reasons I'm not really into labels, because everyone has the seeds and the codes in them. It's just how much of it is active within you. I see empaths and sensitives getting destroyed all the time, getting totally pummeled by the chaotic waves of life because they are so sensitive, they are so big-hearted, and they have no fucking boundaries. This is huge for people that are considered the nice one, for people who have people come to you for help when really a lot of the times they're just using you as a garbage can for their shit because they don't know how to deal with it. The people who are the most sensitive are the most powerful. It's one of the reasons I am so passionate about empowering the sensitives to have boundaries. Because if you are sensitive, you have access to more information. And if you can access more information, that means you can interpret and see your way through the chaos more right now. And we need you. We need you on the planet. Because so many people are completely numbed out and still walking around like they are asleep. So every single person that has sensitivity, emotional intelligence needs to be taking their boundaries in their life seriously and doing their best to establish and maintain them with grace and compassion for everyone. If you're a nice person, if you've got a big heart, if you love to give, you're probably shitty at receiving. That's just the truth of it. And you probably absorb a lot of energy that's not yours. So I'm here right now to be a very powerful reminder for you to look at your own value. To remember how valuable you are to this planet, to the entire universe, to your loved ones, to yourself. You are the most valuable thing in your entire life. If you're not well, what is the point of living? If you're just going to be walked all over all of the time, you can't help anyone. You can't help yourself. So even though cultivating boundaries in your life is going to come with discomfort, there's no way of getting out of it. It is not comfortable. But it is absolutely essential for your well-being. You will not evolve. You will not evolve until you get this down. So I would love to give you an invitation to start choosing you more. To start making sure that your output, in whatever direction you're putting energy out, you are receiving at least in equal measures. Because if you're not receiving in equal measures to what you're putting out, you are going to drive yourself into the ground, into a hole, and no one can get you out but you. And if you have that big heart and you're considered one of those nice people, you are here to help save this planet. You are here to help the world. And we all need you. There's over 8 billion of us. Every single person that is being called to step up to a higher caliber of living and serve their community in some way, whether you're doing it professionally online like I am, or you're just being an incredible mother for your children, or showing up for the loved ones that you have and your direct community. Everyone is being called to rise and help right now. And there's a lot of people that will not be able to be in a space of service for others because whatever reasons. So it's so important for all of the sensitives to start getting this lesson. It is for your own well-being and protection. And it's for the good of everyone. Because if you don't have boundaries in your life, if you do not have access to your voice and you don't know how to stand in your truth, no one around you can learn. So we all just kind of like stagnate together because we don't know how to communicate, because we don't know where our energy ends and the other person begins, how to maintain our energy, how to protect ourselves, how to not be a garbage can for everyone else's shit that they can't process on their own. Do you see what I'm saying? It's huge. It's important. And I want to say something that I hope really lands for you right now. It never, ever feels good to assert boundaries in someone else's direction or have them asserted in your direction. It doesn't feel good, but it's important. It's essential for us to be able to mature and evolve together, to be true to ourselves, to be balanced inside of ourselves and in a balanced, healthy community. We have to be able to have this energetic barrier of protection around us, always with everyone. That does not mean that you need to be on guard all of the time and guard your heart. it means that you come into a place of such deep rootedness in your own truth and knowing who you are and what serves you and what doesn't, that you actually start feeling safer within yourself. You start trusting that your energetic space around you is going to stay sacred and safe because you know how to use your voice. You know how to stand in your truth, and you defend your sacred space anytime it needs to be defended, no matter who it needs to be defended to. And that includes everyone in your life, including people that are closest to you. Children, spouses, parents, aunties and uncles, cousins, clients. You have to have boundaries with everyone. Remember, it is a container where both parties know how to handle each other. There's no question about what the other person will tolerate or what feels appropriate for them, because you both have boundaries. So you can both actually feel safer in your relationship together because you have boundaries. Because I can tell you right now, somebody who doesn't know how to say no is not a safe person. And I'm sorry if that triggers anyone. It's true. If you don't know how to say no, no one can trust your yes. You're probably going to say yes half of the time when you mean no. So it's really important to be in a space of embodiment with your own truth. And this requires that you do the deeper inner work to heal yourself, so you're not projecting onto others and violating their boundaries, so that you can maintain your boundaries when you're in a trauma trigger yourself without totally demolishing the other person. You know, like, you've got to be able to hold yourself in your center and know your truth and know that it's okay to say no, to have boundaries, and to choose you. It's not only okay, it is absolutely essential for your well-being and the well-being and the evolution of the entire species of humanity on Earth right now. This is huge. This concept of cultivating sacred boundaries, you have no idea how far the implications are. Like, I'm not going to go into it because it's beyond the scope of this transmission, but I can tell you right now that humanity really getting this, the importance of establishing and maintaining sacred boundaries in your life, affects the entire universe. It affects our other star families, the Andromedans, the Pleiadians, the Sirians, the Lyrians, the Arcturians. It affects everyone. Because this aspect was not got on other planets. The fact that we don't have boundaries on Earth right now is the reason we're enslaved as a race. It's not our fault, but it is our responsibility to actually start standing up and removing the chains of slavery and choosing you. And remembering that you are the one in power here. None of the systems of slavery are in power. It is a big game of illusion that has worked very well while we've been asleep, and it's no longer working anymore. And that game of illusion is very much like the... what is that dude's name? You know, in Wizard of Oz? The guy behind the curtain at the end. The one that's like pretending to be this big, bad, mean, powerful, and it's just like this feeble old little man playing tricks. That's exactly what has happened to humanity. Because we've been asleep and we've been disempowered, we haven't known who the hell we are. We haven't remembered that we are like literally some of the most incredible, refined, powerful, magical divine beings in the entire universe. And that's changing. And with that comes everyone starting to have boundaries. Because when you start having boundaries, guess what? Things stop being able to control you and manipulate you. When you have boundaries, energies that used to come and manipulate you will turn around and run the other way because they know not to fuck with you anymore. And I'm just going to look at my notes again. There's so much that I wanted to cover in this. Clearly, I am very passionate about it, but it's because I understand how important it is for everyone to be well inside of themselves, and to create a healthy, whole, balanced civilization together. It takes radical responsibility, and you have to get over hurting people's feelings. You really just have to fucking let that go. Not be heartless, but it's none of your business how someone else takes your energy. So that's another piece when it comes to boundaries. That's when we're starting to get into the higher levels of consciousness with it, and the refinement with boundaries. So let's talk about that for a second. Your boundaries, right? Let's say you're a highly sensitive person like myself. Like, you have no idea how sensitive I am, how psychic and intuitive I am. I feel way more energy than I would prefer to, honestly. And if I did not have boundaries strongly within myself, I would be a mess. I would be so unhealthy. I would not be thriving in my life like I am right now. And I would be constantly worrying about what everyone else thinks about me. So one of the aspects when it comes to having healthy boundaries in your life is really staying in your own energy. Staying in your own energy. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have to assert a boundary in the direction of someone, and you are nervous about it. You don't want to, but you have to, because it is spirit calling you to evolve, and also help that other person evolve and grow too by you having a boundary. Let's say you're new to it, and you really don't want to, but you do it anyways. You do the best that you can to communicate compassionately, so you don't just destroy the other person. That also requires that if you get a trigger, you alchemize that first before going and talking to the other person, because that's going to bring a hell of a lot more grace into the conversation and the dynamic of your relationship. So let's say you assert a boundary. Bravo! But then you're like obsessing over it. Oh, what did they think? Did I hurt their feelings? Are they going to think that I'm a bad person? I'm blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? That's not having good boundaries. So when you assert a boundary, you need to back the fuck up and let that other person have their own experience. You need to leave them alone. Physically, emotionally, and mentally. That requires you to mother yourself, to go do something else with your energy, to go keep yourself busy doing other things that you want to have energized in your reality that are beneficial and productive for your life, and leave that other person alone, to not worry about what they're thinking or how they perceived whatever you said or your behavior, because that takes you out of your energy and it puts you in theirs, and then you are in violation of their boundary, right? So you have to be able to assert a boundary and stay in your own lane, stay in your own space, stay in your own energy, carry on. Don't worry about what they think, because that's none of your business. This is a really hard one to get. And I can confidently tell you that if you are very empathic and sensitive, that's not going to come easy for you, because you have a big heart, because you genuinely care, because you don't want to harm another human being, and you want peace, right? But peace is just a facade if no one is mature enough to have boundaries. That's not peace. That's fake, right? So we have to build our muscle, if you will, because boundaries are very much like a muscle. It's something that you have to work out all of the time. And it changes, right? So somebody who's also very sensitive, like you are, who has higher emotional intelligence, you probably will be able to have a little bit more relaxed boundaries around them, as opposed to somebody who's very unconscious and still deeply wounded and in their trauma. You're going to have stronger boundaries with that person because they're not sensitive enough to read your subtle energy, right? So your boundaries are flexible. It's not like, oh, I need boundaries, I'm just going to build this brick wall around myself and then I'm done. It's not like that at all. It's, how do I meet each new situation and each person? And how much can I stay in my own truth and feeling my own energy and what feels appropriate? How much do I want to interact with this person? How much do I want to tolerate and take? It's going to be different for different people. It depends on what's going on in your life. Like, there's so many different factors that go into it. So it is a very fluid, dynamic thing that needs to be cultivated and worked on all of the time. But I can tell you with time you get better and better and better at it. And your energy field gets stronger. And that communicates louder over time. And people are better able to read your energy and what is appropriate for interacting with you, just because the sacred space that you have cultivated around yourself and maintained with deep devotion for however long you have been practicing it. Okay, let's see. Ba, ba, ba. Oh, all right. Man, there's so much. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to cover all of this today. We're already almost at an hour. But maybe we will. Okay, so I want to hit on another area of boundaries, right? Because we've basically just been talking about boundaries in relationship to other humans. Boundaries are across the board. It's really about an interaction of your energy and your attention. So, in addition to having good boundaries with other humans, sorry, give me just 1 second. I am thirsty. And apparently sweating a lot. That's fine. It's a fiery transmission. I could probably talk about this for hours, but I'm going to try to wrap it up soon because this is a lot. Boundaries. I'm going to give you some more examples. To have boundaries in your life, not just with other humans. Okay, you have to understand that the energy of your thought is what creates worlds. It is your focus. It is not the energy of thought from other beings who are not human. It is the energy of thought from a human. It's why when you go out into the world, and you don't even have to leave your home, you will see that your attention is being fought for, tooth and nail, by every single influence of out there who can possibly fight for your attention. So you have to have boundaries everywhere. You've got to have discernment and boundaries with what you are ingesting, whether that be through food, drinks, whatever you're listening to, what you're reading. Literally everything that interacts with your field, you need to be conscious of and have boundaries with it. So, for instance, I'm going to give you some examples of some of the ways that I uphold healthy boundaries in my life to keep my well-being in tip-top shape. A really good example of this is boundaries with the screens, right? So we all have smartphones nowadays, and they are, in case you didn't know, designed to be addictive, especially social media. They are literally designed, your psychology has been studied, and these platforms have been created intentionally to pull you in and get you addicted to them. So it's important to have boundaries with that type of stuff. So don't just mindlessly be consuming and scrolling all of the time, right? That can be really challenging depending on where you're at. If you're in a disempowered state and you're just trying to like ease your pain, it can be easy to just scroll and scroll and scroll mindlessly. Also, social media and all of these things and technologies are whatever you make of it. They are designed to be intentionally unhealthy, and you are the one in charge, and you can absolutely have the most beautiful, empowering, healthy relationship with these things. I personally absolutely love social media. I love it. I receive so much empowerment. I connect with so many amazing people. And I've had periods in the past where it felt toxic to me. And I needed to assert a serious boundary. When people take a social media break, that's them putting a boundary in, right? Because they're feeling the effect of something on their well being and it doesn't feel like it's serving. So you have to assert your boundary in whatever way so that your reality and relationships, whether it be with people or technology, feel like they're serving you. Okay? So, one of the things that I do in my own personal life is I have a screen timer set on my phone. So it shuts off all of my apps in my phone and doesn't let me open them without telling me that I'm outside of the hours of active screen time. So that I actually have a chunk of time every single day, which is usually the first few hours and the last few hours of the day, that I have that timer set on that turns everything off. So I don't keep getting pinged by potential clients and people in my text messages and like it creates a space of safety for me to just be in my own energy without being continuously pulled on, right? And that's a setting in your phone, in the settings that you can find. Highly recommend doing it. You can also set a timer for however long you want to go off once you have, let's say, 15 minutes. You've been scrolling, 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 and you just don't even realize how much you're scrolling for. But if you have a timer, it's going to come up and tell you, yo, you've been scrolling for 15 minutes already. So you can fully make the decision to continue scrolling, but it's good to have a little reminder to show you this is how much time you're actually spending doing this thing that is or isn't serving you, right? So it helps you be more cognizant of where and how you're spending your energy, and it helps you not be completely sucked into the technology that wants you to be addicted to it. Okay? Ba, 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 ba. Also, I go into like serious refinement when it comes to notifications on my phone. So I have that screen timer, right? I also don't have any notifications on my phone unless it is a reminder or a calendar invite that I have put myself. So I don't allow any bells or whistles or badges to come up anywhere on my phone. I keep all of that in its own little app so that when I decide to go in and open it, that's when I'm going to be absorbing all that information instead of just every single time something comes in, continuously distracting me from my train of thought because you never get anywhere. When you're constantly being pinged left and right, you can't focus. So these are more examples of how to have better boundaries for your well-being in your life. Ba 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 ba. I think that's mostly it. Yes, we went over that. Okay. Another thing I want to hit on before we wrap up. It's expanding a little bit more on having boundaries with people. But when you're really when you're sensitive and you're super nice and you love giving and helping, it's very easy to say yes too much when you really need to say no because you need replenishment. So I want to ask you if you do that. If you say yes when you mean no. If you say yes to all of the social obligations, or what have you, honestly. If you're saying yes to things when your body is saying no, you need to start having a better look at what's going on within you, because that's not sustainable. If you continuously dishonor your no and your body and your own needs, there's two paths. One is where you evolve and grow and you get better, and the other one is where you just drill yourself into a hole in the ground. And not having good boundaries is going to drill you into a hole in the ground. So I want to invite you to start being more conscious and tuning in more and actually checking in with your own energy and your own body and how you're feeling before you just say yes to something. I don't care who's asking you of it. If it doesn't feel like it serves you, if you feel like you're going to be giving energy and not really getting any back, you really need to start thinking about that and learning how to say no. And remember, some people aren't going to like it. But if you're not ready to choose you, you can't really help anyone else. You have to be in a state of overflow before you can help everyone else. You can't give from an empty cup. So unless and until you're ready to actually start creating and refining better, healthier boundaries in your life, you're not going to be able to get into a state of overflow. You need to replenish and fill your own cup first. And that's what boundaries are. The more and more humans that actually step up and stand up and rise and claim their sovereignty and boundaries, the faster all of these chains and shackles are going to come off the whole planet. And we're going to see what a huge, sophisticated illusion these systems of enslavement have been. We're going to remember our power. And we're going to move through the challenges quickly and the discomfort once we start choosing ourselves and reclaiming our sovereignty. Bum, bum, bum. All right. I think I covered everything. Yeah. That's it. And that puts us at an hour. So that was a lot. Thank you so much for anyone who actually stays for the entire hour. Please give yourself plenty of time to integrate. As you are working and refining your boundaries, just try your best to be graceful, because everyone's wounded right now. That doesn't mean tolerate disrespect or your boundaries being violated, but you have to have boundaries established first before anyone will even know how to respect them. So if you haven't been having boundaries, you can't be mad at people for not knowing how to treat you properly because you haven't shown them. So if you're working on cultivating boundaries in relationships that you've had for a while but you haven't had boundaries in, know that it might be a little clunky at first, but if the relationship is meant to stay in your life and serve you, you both will come out of the other side better. You'll both have a better relationship with yourself, with each other, and you'll have the opportunity to grow and evolve together because of this, right? Okay, I'm just gonna send us off with a little sound. Thank you for tuning in to this transmission with me. I do hope that you received some value. If you feel inspired to share anything in the comments below, you could even reach out to me directly if you have something that you would like to share that came to you once you were sitting through this transmission. I would love to hear from you. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. There's, like a couple of dozen of incredible modern day embodied goddesses that are coming in here to offer you really powerful masterclasses for this summit. And if you haven't already gotten our book, Isis, Mother of Magic, Modern Goddesses Who Embody Her Eternal Grace and Power, you can still get it right now on Amazon for 99 cents. The hard copy will be available soon. And I hope this has served you well, and I will see you in the ethers. Have a beautiful day. Aloha.